There are things inside your house that do not live on shelves. They live inside you. They sit quietly, polished and harmless, until you realize they are not decorations, but doctrine. They are not objects of matter, but mirrors of mindset. Every home, every soul, every human life becomes a temple to something, either to wisdom or to illusion, either to freedom or to fear. And most of us, without knowing it, have invited subtle witchcraft into our rooms, the kind that doesn't summon demons but seduces our discipline, that doesn't cast spells with words but with habits. The old poet said, "Evil enters not by force, but by familiarity. It looks innocent, it looks ordinary. And the greatest deceptions are never those you fear. They are the ones you tolerate." The first symbol is the mirror, not the glass one hanging on your wall, but the invisible mirror in your mind. It reflects not your face, but your self-image. And this mirror has been enchanted by comparison. Every time you look into it, it whispers someone else's success back at you. It shows you not who you are, but who you are not. It keeps you in constant self-inspection instead of self-construction. The witchcraft of the mirror is subtle. It convinces you that identity must be borrowed, that worth must be witnessed, that beauty must be proven. You wake up, and the first thing you measure is not your gratitude, but your reflection, your body, your follower count, your approval, and slowly you stop living to express and start living to impress. Break the mirror, because no mirror can tell you who you are. It can only repeat what you already believe. When you stop staring at reflections and start shaping reality, you reclaim your power. The truly rich do not seek validation. They create evidence. Their mirror is their mission. Their worth is their work. And every act of purpose adds another facet of beauty that no reflection can contain. The second symbol is the clock, the ticking one, the one that hypnotizes you with the illusion of not enough time. The clock's magic is anxiety. It tells you that you are late, behind, running out. It casts the spell of urgency without purpose motion, without meaning. The witchcraft of the clock makes slaves of dreamers. It convinces them that youth is slipping, that opportunity has expired, that destiny is a deadline. But time was never your enemy. It was your instrument. The minutes are not hunters chasing you. They are servants waiting for command. Destroy the tyranny of the clock by mastering your focus. Do not measure life by hours, but by impact. Time expands for the decisive. A single hour of clarity is worth more than a lifetime of hesitation. When you stop racing against time and start rising within it, you break the spell. Because the truth is, eternity is not later, it is now. The third symbol is the door. Every home has one. It represents transition, opportunity, boundaries. But when fear owns the handle, the door becomes a prison disguised as protection. The witchcraft of the door is hesitation. It makes you stand before change, calculating the risk until courage rots. You tell yourself stories of someday, and someday becomes never. You hear the knocking of possibility, but convince yourself it's danger. You peek through the keyhole and call it wisdom. That's how most people die, not in body, but at the doorway of what could have been. The cure is movement. The spell breaks the moment you act. Every new chapter demands a step, not a plan. Courage doesn't wait for certainty. It creates it. The door is not there to stop you, it's there to test you. And once you walk through it, you realize there was no monster on the other side, only a mirror asking, "Do you trust yourself enough to leave?" The fourth symbol is the chair, the comfortable one, the one that waits for you every night after the workday, promising rest that slowly becomes resignation. The witchcraft of the chair is complacency. It whispers, "You deserve a break. until the break becomes a lifestyle. It convinces you that peace is found in stillness, that comfort is success, that the absence of struggle is the proof of blessing. And in that softness, dreams suffocate. You start calling your stagnation balance, your fear patience, your avoidance faith. Rise from the chair. Rest should be earned, not worshipped. You were not made to sit forever. You were made to stand for something. The fire inside you was not meant to warm you. It was meant to light the world. Rest, yes, but never retire from your potential. Every time you move, you remind the universe you are alive. Every time you sit too long, you remind death that you're available. The fifth and final symbol is the shadow, the one that follows you into every room. The witchcraft of the shadow is guilt. It hides in silence, feeding on every regret you refuse to release. It tells you that the past is permanent, that you cannot begin again, that mistakes define you. The shadow's spell is shame, and shame is the most sophisticated prison of all, because it has no wall. It only needs memory. It keeps the soul small by replaying what cannot be undone. But guilt is only poisonous when you drink it. Let the past accuse you all at once. It has no authority once you forgive yourself. Forgiveness is not permission for weakness. It is restoration of power. You cannot rewrite the story, but you can redeem the author. Your shadow is proof of your depth. It means you have stood in the light. Do not fear it. Integrate it. Because when you bring awareness to what was hidden, you turn darkness into understanding. And understanding is freedom. These 5 innocent symbols, the mirror, the clock, the door, the chair, and the shadow, exist in every home, every heart. They are not evil in themselves. They are reminders of what happens when awareness sleeps. The real witchcraft is unconscious living. The moment you awaken, when you start seeing habits as spells and choices as rituals, you realize that your house was never haunted by darkness. It was haunted by neglect. Cleanse your house. Polish the mind. Rearrange your inner furniture. Replace the mirror of comparison with the window of gratitude. Replace the ticking of anxiety with the rhythm of intention. Replace the locked door of fear with the open gate of faith. Replace the chair of comfort with the altar of commitment, and let the shadow bow before the rising sun of your rebirth. Because the truth is this: nothing outside you can curse you if you refuse to participate in the curse. Evil loses its power the moment you stop feeding it attention. Negativity dies of starvation. Every day you awaken to awareness, you exorcise another ghost of mediocrity. You were not made to live under spells. You were made to cast light. The light of discipline, the light of gratitude, the light of purpose. Think rich in spirit. Change yourself like you are changing generations. Live positively, not because it is easy, but because the alternative is death while breathing. You are the keeper of your own temple. And when your temple shines, the whole world feels its warmth. When a man begins to see the mirror, the clock, the door, the chair, and the shadow for what they really are, something inside him stirs. It is the sound of his own chains beginning to loosen. The first thing he realizes is that awareness alone changes the atmosphere. What was ordinary now speaks. Every object in his home becomes an invitation to remember. I am the keeper of this place. The mirror no longer mocks him. It asks him whether he will spend another morning comparing or creating. He does not answer with words. He answers with action. He builds before he scrolls. He writes before he watches. He creates before he consumes. The spell breaks because he refuses to worship reflection. The clock ticks the same as it always did, but he hears it differently. It is no longer the drumbeat of panic. It is percussion for purpose. He stops saying, "I don't have time," and starts saying, "I choose differently." That one sentence rewrites the entire rhythm of his life. He discovers that minutes obey intention the way shadows obey light. When he stands tall, they fall into place. The day stretches to meet a man who walks with clarity. Then the door, that trembling border between the known and the unknown, begins to call him again. He has lived too long, just staring at its wood, memorizing its grain. This time he turns the handle. The hinge groans, the world expands, and the air smells new. Fear still whispers, but courage hums louder. He walks through and finds that on the other side of hesitation is not danger, but destiny. Every decision after that becomes easier, because once you walk through one impossible door, the others lose their mystery. The chair still waits, as chairs do. It tempts him after long days, after small victories. He sits, yes, but differently. Rest is no longer escape. It is preparation. He closes his eyes and thinks not of what he deserves, but of what he intends. He breathes until the stillness becomes strength. Then he rises again, because he has learned that peace is not the opposite of motion. It is motion done with meaning. And the shadow, the faithful companion of every step, still follows. But it no longer frightens him. He greets it. He names it. He knows that without light there would be no shadow, and without shadow there would be no depth. The guilt that once clung like dust becomes compost for wisdom. Every mistake now feeds a new form of compassion. He learns to bless even what broke him, because broken things let the light leak out. Transformation is not a single moment. It is a sequence of small choices, repeated until the old magic loses its memory. The man who once lived under spells becomes a sorcerer of purpose. He realizes that every day he is enchanting his world with thought, with focus, with speech. Words spoken in frustration twist the air. Words spoken in gratitude clear it. He begins to speak carefully, not as performance, but as creation. His language becomes architecture. Thank you lays a foundation. I can builds the walls. I will opens the roof to heaven. Soon the house itself feels different. The mirror gleams with humility. The clock hums with patience. The door opens easily. The chair stands ready, but never claims him. The shadow dances like an old friend at sunset. He walks through rooms that once held ghosts and realizes they were never ghosts, only echoes of forgotten responsibility. This is how wealth begins, not with money, but with mastery. Mastery over thought, over time, over emotion, over response. Riches follow the mind that governs itself. The poor spirit spends energy blaming circumstance. The rich spirit spends it designing circumstance. And design begins at home, in the unseen housekeeping of the soul. So cleanse your house daily. Dust your intentions. Open the windows of awareness. Let new ideas circulate. Throw away old stories that smell of regret. Light the candle of purpose each morning, and let its smoke remind you that every day is a ritual. You do not need a temple. Your discipline is your altar. You do not need incense. Your work is the fragrance of devotion. When people visit such a house, they feel peace without knowing why. They call it good energy, but it is simply order, divine order, expressed through an ordinary life. The mirror, the clock, the door, the chair, the shadow, they remain, but they serve now. The witchcraft has been reversed. The tools that once mastered you now magnify you. That is redemption in its simplest form, not escape from the world, but transformation of it. And the lesson deepens. Everything outside you is a symbol of something inside you. The state of your room reveals the state of your focus. The state of your finances reveals the state of your faith in stewardship. The tone of your words reveals the temperature of your heart. To change the outer, you must purify the inner. To build wealth, you must first build worth. So think richly not in greed, but in generosity. Give without keeping score, because the universe cannot resist refilling an open hand. Live positively not as denial of darkness, but as declaration that light is stronger. Change yourself not to become someone else, but to finally reveal the self you buried beneath fear and fatigue. There is no spell greater than awareness, no curse stronger than ignorance, and no freedom higher than conscious creation. The home you live in is not wood and stone, it is mindset and spirit. Keep it clean, keep it alive. Let every object remind you that you are both the builder and the blessing. And when night comes, sit in that chair one last time. Look around. Listen. The mirror will be silent. The clock will tick softly, a heartbeat instead of a warning. The door will rest open. The shadow will kneel at your feet. That is the sign you have become master of your house. The witchcraft has been undone. You are no longer haunted. You are home. And when you are finally home, something ancient begins to stir within you. The soul, once buried beneath noise, begins to remember its origin. You realize that your truest wealth is awareness, the sacred attention that gives meaning to everything it touches. What you notice, you nurture. What you ignore, decays. The poor in spirit are not those without possessions, but those who walk through miracles as if they were furniture. The rich in spirit, however, see the divine in every detail. They do not wait for extraordinary events. They bring extraordinary attention to ordinary life. When the spirit awakens, even the walls breathe. The air feels lighter, conversations become deeper, and silence becomes music. You stop seeking stimulation because awareness itself becomes ecstasy. The man who truly sees no longer needs to escape. He has found paradise in perception. And this is where transformation becomes creation. When gratitude turns your world from an accident into a masterpiece. But the awakened must guard their gates, for awareness attracts both light and shadow. As you grow, new temptations appear subtler, smoother, dressed in wisdom, but dripping with vanity. Pride will try to enter your house wearing the mask of confidence. It will whisper, "Look how far you've come," not to inspire gratitude, but to plant complacency. Remember, growth never graduates. The moment you think you've arrived, the journey ends. Stay a student of the infinite. The wise man bows lower the more he learns. Guard your tongue. Guard your thoughts. Guard your routines. Because the devil does not knock with horns, he arrives as convenient. He whispers, "You've worked hard enough today." When you are one step away from breakthrough, he says, "You deserve to rest," when what you deserve is results. Discipline is not punishment. It is protection. It keeps the sacred from becoming spoiled. Routine, when aligned with purpose, is the highest form of worship. It is how ordinary hours become holy ground. You will be tested in subtle ways. There will be days when faith feels foolish, when results seem distant, when no one claps for your consistency. Those are the days that define you. Heaven measures not how loudly you celebrate success, but how quietly you persist through obscurity. The candle that burns unseen still lights the dark. Continue, even when unseen, because destiny is watching even when people are not. And remember, the path of light is not paved in luxury, it is carved through labor. To live richly is to work inwardly. The world teaches that wealth is expansion outward, bigger houses, louder lives. But the kingdom within knows that true expansion is inward, broader compassion, deeper stillness, stronger faith. The one who masters himself possesses a kingdom no thief can touch. As you grow, others will notice a change they cannot explain. Some will call it peace, others will call it power. But those who live without light will call it arrogance, because your clarity offends their confusion. Do not apologize for the clarity you've earned through chaos. Every scar on your soul is proof that you've wrestled with darkness and won. Let your peace be loud enough to challenge, but quiet enough to remain pure. And in time, you will understand that the true purpose of personal wealth is not possession, but provision. You do not become rich to decorate your ego. You become rich to distribute wisdom. The overflow is not for you. It is through you. The more you serve, the more heaven trusts you with. The river that hoards its water becomes a swamp. The river that flows becomes life itself. So, let your abundance move. Give encouragement, opportunity, mercy. Speak life into those who still live under their old spell. One day someone will come to you and say, "Everything in my house feels heavy. My mind, my heart, my life." And you will smile, because you know the language. You will help them see the mirror, the clock, the door, the chair, and the shadow. You will show them how to sweep the dust from their thoughts, how to forgive their reflection, how to walk through fear, how to rise again. And as they awaken, you will realize that teaching is simply the highest form of remembering. Every time you free another, you free a forgotten piece of yourself. Then comes the revelation. The house you have been cleansing was never just yours. It was the world itself. The inner and outer are not separate realms. They are reflections of the same consciousness. As more souls awaken, the entire world brightens, as if dawn is arriving one mind at a time. Society changes, not when policies shift, but when perception does. The most radical revolution is inner clarity, multiplied by millions. This is the quiet work of light. Not loud, not rushed, not violent. It spreads the way. Dawn spreads gently, inevitably. The truly powerful do not scream their truth. They embody it until it becomes undeniable. They move through life like sunlight on water fluid, reflective, impossible to grasp, yet impossible to ignore. And so you continue walking. You still feel fear, but you no longer obey it. You still feel temptation, but you recognize it before it roots. You still rest, but you no longer retire from responsibility. Life no longer happens to you, it happens through you. You have become the channel between heaven and earth, between idea and action. Now, wealth begins to follow you naturally, not because you chase it, but because you've become the kind of vessel it trusts. Money, opportunity, relationships, they all gravitate towards stability, and you have become stable in truth. Your energy no longer leaks through doubt or self-deception. You have sealed the cracks with awareness. You have become whole. And yet, even now, the whisper of the old spells sometimes returns. The mirror may try to show you another's progress. The clock may tick louder on days of delay. The door may creak with fear when the next level calls. The chair may tempt you to settle. The shadow may stretch when pain revisits. But now you recognize them as old friends testing your resolve. You smile, you thank them, you keep moving. That is mastery, not immunity to challenge, but intimacy with it. Every master you admire is simply a man or woman who learned to bless the test. They stopped wishing for ease and started wishing for endurance. They stopped begging for signs and started becoming them. They stopped asking life to be fair and started being faithful. That is the secret path. Endurance, faithfulness, focus. The trio that breaks every curse. And as you live this way, you will realize something profound. Nothing is wasted. Every mistake, every delay, every heartbreak was a brick in the cathedral of your becoming. You could not be who you are without what you've survived. So stop regretting the ruins. They were necessary. Even the witchcraft served you in disguise because it taught you discernment. Darkness has always been the most honest teacher of light. And so, when the day ends and you walk again through your house, the mirror will smile, the clock will whisper gratitude, the door will rest open, the chair will hold only memory, and the shadow will fade into the horizon. You will understand that nothing in your home ever cursed you. It was you who cursed yourself by forgetting your own power. But now you remember. Now you are awake. And that perhaps is the final exorcism. Not the banishing of evil, but the return of awareness. For the awakened need no spells, no charms, no rituals. Their life itself becomes the incantation one of truth, purpose, and relentless gratitude. When awareness returns, it does not arrive as thunder. It arrives as a whisper that changes everything it touches. Suddenly, you see that power was never hidden from you. It was simply waiting for you to open your eyes. You begin to live differently. You move slower, but mean every motion. You speak less, but every word carries weight. You work not to prove your worth, but to pour it into form. Wealth begins to feel less like accumulation and more like alignment, the outer world catching up to the precision of your inner world. The light that once flickered now burns steady. You no longer chase motivation because devotion has replaced it. Motivation depends on mood. Devotion depends on mission. A devoted soul does not ask how long it will take. It simply walks until arrival feels inevitable. The path hardens your muscles and softens your heart. You begin to sense that the real miracle is not the mountain move, but the climber made. There are still storms, but you no longer curse the rain. You bless it because you remember what drought felt like. You walk into conflict not as a victim seeking pity, but as a builder seeking clarity. Every difficulty reveals the next lesson you secretly prayed for. This is how the universe teaches those who listen, not with comfort, but with confrontation. And with every confrontation, a fragment of the old self falls away. You start forgiving faster. You start apologizing quicker. You start choosing peace over pride. You start giving without keeping score. It is not weakness. It is strength refined. The ego believes it wins by collecting, but the spirit knows it wins by releasing. You discover that generosity is the highest currency because it buys eternity. Your work deepens. You begin to create not for attention, but for contribution. You no longer fear being unseen because you understand that God hides his best seeds underground before revealing the garden. So you labor in secret. You invest in silence. You trust that what is done faithfully in private will shout truth in public. The harvest never forgets the sower. Then, one evening, as you stand by the window watching the last light bleed across the horizon, you realize something extraordinary. You have stopped fighting yourself. The war that once raged between who you were and who you wanted to be has ended. Peace was not a place you found. It was a person you became. You smile at the memory of the mirror, the clock, the door, the chair, and the shadow. They are still there, but they no longer own you. The mirror now reflects gratitude. The clock keeps rhythm with purpose. The door opens toward destiny. The chair offers rest without chains. The shadow bows to the sun of your awareness. What once symbolized bondage now symbolizes balance. The same house that imprisoned you has become your sanctuary. You understand now that life is not about escaping darkness, but integrating it. The night is not evil. It is necessary for stars to appear. The heart that can hold both sorrow and joy without breaking has found the architecture of heaven. You begin to see the pattern in everything. Destruction followed by design, loss followed by lesson, endings followed by expansion. Even death begins to look like transformation, wearing a different coat. And you whisper, almost laughing, I was never cursed. I was being carved. The universe was not against you. It was sculpting you. Every blow of the chisel was shaping a masterpiece too sacred to rush. You realized that the delays were protection, that rejection was redirection, that failure was instruction. The plan was perfect, even when it hurt. Now you wake with calm fire. You pray not for ease, but for endurance. You ask not for wealth, but for wisdom. You no longer beg life to be gentle, because you have become unbreakable. That is the quiet triumph. The kind that doesn't make headlines, but changes generations. Soon you begin to teach without trying. Your presence becomes lesson enough. People watch the way you listen, the way you walk, the way you work, and something in them awakens. You are no longer merely a student of light. You have become its language. And in that moment, you understand the final truth. The purpose of light is not to be admired, it is to be shared. The highest form of gratitude is to become a blessing yourself, to turn your healing into health, your wisdom into guidance, your faith into foundation for others. The mirror, the clock, the door, the chair, the shadow, all of them bow now to this realization that the house was never about architecture, but awareness. The symbols were never about superstition, but self-mastery. You have become the living sermon that C.S. Lewis once described, the kind of human through whom heaven itself begins to speak. And now the air feels different. You sense that the old world, the one ruled by noise, by comparison, by hurry, is dissolving behind you. You no longer live for applause or validation or even victory. You live for alignment, the quiet certainty that what you do, what you think, and what you are have finally become one. That unity is heaven on earth. The man or woman who lives in alignment cannot be defeated, because defeat requires inner division. If the heart and the mind walk together, no circumstance can tear them apart. You rise in the morning with calm eyes and strong hands. You no longer ask life, why me? You whisper, use me. The words change everything. Use me. Use my voice to lift others. Use my pain to teach compassion. Use my work to build something that outlives me. You realize that the richest people in history were not those who kept the most. They were those who gave themselves entirely to a purpose greater than comfort. Their names endure not because they were perfect, but because they were possessed by something sacred. Vision. Vision is not sight. It is inner prophecy. It sees the invisible and moves as if it were already real. That's how mountains are moved, not by magic, but by motion. Vision is the most divine inheritance of man, yet most treat it as fantasy. They see the dream, they feel the calling, and then they return to the chair, the clock, the mirror, back to safety, back to slumber. But you, awakened one, cannot go back. The bridge behind you has burned, and that is mercy, because destiny does not live in reverse. The mirror's power fades because you no longer need to be admired. You crave authenticity, not attention. You would rather be real than relevant, and paradoxically, that is what makes you magnetic. The world is starving for truth, and truth has become rare. When you speak with honesty, people listen, not because your words are clever, but because your life is consistent. The clock's tyranny ends because you no longer fear the passing of time. You understand that a well-lived moment is eternity condensed. The door stands open because courage has become habit. The chair becomes your throne because rest is now ritual, not retreat. The shadow becomes art because you see beauty even in what once frightened you. This is what freedom feels like. Not an escape from struggle, but a rhythm through it. You stop waiting for the storm to pass, because you have become the storm, not destructive, but decisive. You move through life with grace and gravity combined. You no longer flinch at resistance. You thank it, because pressure is proof that potential is alive. As your awareness deepens, so does your compassion. You stop judging those still asleep. You understand now. They are not blind, just dreaming. And all dreams end the same way with awakening. So you lead by living. You teach by being. You stop preaching and start embodying. That is the highest form of teaching silent authenticity. And as your life ripples outward, something extraordinary begins. Those around you start to change without realizing why. They borrow your peace, your patience, your presence. They begin to speak slower, think deeper, love truer. They begin to remember themselves. This is the contagion of consciousness. You have become a living catalyst, not a saint, not a preacher, but a demonstration. The sermon is not your voice. It is your vibration. One night you sit in stillness and realize that the house you've been cleansing, your mind, your habits, your heart, is part of a larger house, humanity. And every time one person wakes up, the whole house brightens. Every act of kindness is another window opened. Every moment of forgiveness is another room cleaned. Every discipline kept is another light turned on. You understand now that the spiritual architecture of the world is built by invisible actions. The true revolution is not political, it is perceptual. It happens inside, and then it manifests outside. And the world changes quietly, not with slogans or shouts, but with people who have found peace and power inside themselves. The truly rich do not conquer others. They conquer confusion. They do not build empires of greed. They build environments of grace. They do not force change. They embody it. You begin to see wealth differently. Wealth is not what fills your house. It's what fills your hours. It's the way you give your time to what matters. It's the strength to say no to distractions that disguise themselves as duties. It's the joy that follows when purpose and discipline shake hands. You realize that the secret of abundance is simple. Give more value than you consume. The man who enriches others can never be poor. Now, your mornings become ceremonies. You rise not as a machine, but as a messenger. You breathe gratitude before ambition, clarity before chaos. You learn to begin the day with awareness, to step into the world, not with haste, but with holiness. Every action becomes an offering. Every decision becomes prayer. That is how ordinary days turn divine, not by what you do, but by how you do it. You start to speak blessings over your environment. You thank the walls for sheltering you. You thank the hands that built them, the earth that held them. You realize that gratitude is not emotion, it's energy. It multiplies what it touches. Where gratitude flows, stagnation cannot survive. Even money responds to it. It moves toward appreciation. That's why those who are thankful for little always find more, while those who complain about much always feel lack. And somewhere between gratitude and growth, between giving and becoming, you find joy again. Not the shallow joy of distraction, but the quiet joy of alignment. It doesn't shout, it hums. It sits inside your chest like a small, steady light that nothing can extinguish. You laugh more easily. You forgive more freely. You plan more boldly. You live like a man no longer afraid of endings, because you understand that every ending is only another beginning disguised. You no longer seek miracles. You realize you are one. Every breath is proof that creation still trusts you. Every sunrise is the universe saying, try again. and you do with a heart less afraid and a mind more awake. This, then, is the true meaning of wealth: to wake each day aware, to act each day with integrity, to love each day without restraint, to walk through life not as a beggar of blessings, but as a bearer of them. The rich are not those who own much, but those who owe gratitude for everything. And as the music of the world fades into stillness, you finally understand. The greatest spell ever cast was the belief that you were powerless. The greatest miracle is the day you stop believing it. Because the moment you remember who you are, light, intention, awareness, love, every curse collapses. You were never meant to live small. You were meant to expand until even the stars call you kin. So rise now quietly, deliberately, magnificently. Let your footsteps sound like forgiveness, and your work shine like prophecy. Live in such a way that when you leave this house, the world itself feels cleaner. You are not haunted anymore. You are holy. You are home.